Welcome to Cancer and Peace. My name is Sean Stewart, and I'm here with our host, Peter Scalzo. And we're going to talk today about something that I think is one of the great tools for somebody who's looking for peace in their cancer journey. And I'm going to let Peter be the opener of this introduction, but I think we're both going to go back and forth quite a bit because this is something that has been both transformative for you and I, and we have a lot of experience with this tool. And so I'll let you kick it off today.
Is it the tool that I'm thinking of?
I guess we did talk about two topics. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, the tool you're thinking of.
It starts with G?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Well, everyone, welcome and thank you for joining Sean and I in this podcast, these discussions. Hopefully you're gaining some value and benefit from being a part of what we're doing. And we're energized to do these podcasts. And I personally, this is my really purpose and passion in life. A lot of you know I've been on a 17-year cancer journey. And so for me, leaning into how do I gain inner peace in this cancer journey has been really a just one of those pearls that I've been looking for, that I've been seeking after, and feel that that I have achieved many times in dwelling in a place of inner peace. And so we just wanted to have a discussion, and that's what we're doing in these podcasts. And today is a very special discussion because the tool that Sean and I are going to speak about is gratitude. And gratitude is really a huge part of my life, not just with the cancer journey, but really all of life. It's intentional for me to step into a place of gratitude. And we will talk about that. But I think there's a section in my book that I wrote, Cancer and Peace, My 15-Year Journey, in which I used gratitude as a game changer. And I'll just lay that out now, I guess, right, Sean?
Yeah.
And really what had happened was, again, after this 14th sea change surgery, where I am in a place where medically I don't have any more options at that point. I'm looking at a 5% survival rate, 10-hour surgery with 3 surgeons. You've heard the story. And if you're not sure, just listen to another podcast that we've done where I really outline what happened in that surgery. But the issue is this. I was in a place hooked up to life support in the form of water and nutrition, and was down at the hospital down at Lenox Hill in Manhattan for almost a month. And I had to do the hard work of recovery, not just physical recovery, which if any of you have had abdominal surgery, I mean, this was my third operation where they used the same incision from the pubic bone on up past the belly button. It's about 14 inches, and I had that incision, and my system wasn't working. My intestines hadn't opened up, and so I couldn't eat. And so they hooked me up to TPN, which was to get nutrition through a vein, and I was getting water also that way. But I was in a bad state, I would say, Sean. I was in a bad place emotionally and spiritually still. I mean, God was beginning to speak to me, and I was beginning to sort of work out of it, but I still was in a bad place. And I did not want to do the hard work of recovery physically, getting up, moving around, walking. It really is hard, difficult work. And I did not want to do the hard work emotionally and spiritually. I was trying. And so all of a sudden, and I say all of a sudden, but I believe God spoke to me, and the verse that popped up was, for me, in all things, give thanks. In all circumstances, give thanks. For this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. I'm in this, my hospital room, and I'm there for a long time. And I'm like, I have to be thankful in this situation. There's no way I want to be thankful. I didn't have an ounce of gratitude in my soul at that point. But so what I did was I was obedient to that concept of being thankful in all circumstances, not quite understanding it completely. And so I entered into a space of making a gratitude list. And I took out my journal, and I had about 30 items on my gratitude list, anywhere from the family I grew up in to the area I did, and the relationships I had, my marriage, my children, the schooling I had. I've been to Israel 7 times. I mean, I just went through all these wonderful events and things in my life. And when I was processing how grateful I was for those things, my whole outlook changed. My whole situation changed in the sense of, wow, I'm at a point now where I believe I can do my recovery. I can enter into a space of dealing with the tough emotions even more. I'm so thankful for what God has done. So it's that thankfulness, that attitude of gratitude that brought me out of that place that was that devastating. Do you want to comment at all on that? Sean?
Yeah, I think I want to throw some thoughts at just thinking about your journey. And for any cancer patient, your body's experiencing trauma. And so when your body experiences trauma, it responds in a few ways. And so you and I have both been involved, and we're going to have a good friend of ours, Nancy, come and talk about trauma. But this is important in this sense, and I had learned some things just listening and connecting and going through some of this trauma training program and experiencing, what did it mean for me personally. And one of the things that was fascinating about the trauma training is that your nervous system, they'll teach, sits in 3 kind of basic areas, and that's this parasympathetic state is where you're kind of in normal operating mode, and then when you're in normal operating mode, you function and your nervous system is operating in the environment with expectations. You're not in fear. You're just processing data as it comes your way. But when a traumatic event comes on, generally people move to what we would call a sympathetic state, and that's where you have heightened adrenaline and your body is putting out hormonal responses, other types of responses that are causing you to be able to respond to danger and fear and the things that are around you. So this sympathetic state happens. And so whenever trauma comes, your body tries to respond and put itself, if you think about fear, it's fight or flight, are things that happen with the adrenaline. And then something else then off the backside of this, the body has to restore itself. So it moves into freeze or a rest state where it allows itself to rest and regenerate, and it operates on a level of, here are the things that need to operate to function, but the rest of the body needs to be able to rest and to recover a bit. And then eventually you should move back into a sympathetic or parasympathetic state, which is your normal operating mode again. And I put a lot of detail there for the purposes of thinking about that. What struck me a bunch, and I was listening to this the other day, and I was thinking about my own journey, and it was, you cannot experience the feeling of gratitude. I'm not talking about writing the word of gratitude. You can't experience the feeling of gratitude unless you're in this parasympathetic state. So if you're in fight or flight mode, you can't experience gratitude, and if you're in freeze, you can't experience gratitude. And so one of the reasons why I thought it was, you were talking about, you were in a place where, and my guess is that your body was now in this recovery state and probably depression, but it was conserving all of its energy for that recovery journey and the feelings, the darkness and the hopelessness. But all the non-essential things of you were being basically powered down so that your body could focus on recovering in the areas that it needed to for that part of the journey. But as you start working on your emotional state going forward, what would move you back to parasympathetic? And you just described, you wrote a gratitude list out. And I think it's fascinating. I started thinking about it when I was going through this training the first time, and it was think back of a time when you felt grateful. I mean, truly grateful. And the exercise was to think of that experience. Both of you and I both have newer grandchildren in the mix, and that was the thought that came, just the ability to hold, I was thinking back when my my first grandchild was born, and the ability to hold this child and just experience the feeling of gratitude, of joy and gratitude, and just the deep raw emotion of that, and to let that flow through. To do that, you're in a parasympathetic state. Your nervous system is experiencing the pleasure and all the excitement of this gift, and gratitude is thinking about the gifts that are there. And so part of the exercise, the reason why I think we called this a tool at the start, is that by writing a gratitude list, you open the door to experience that emotion. And to experience that emotion, your nervous system has to move towards the parasympathetic state, towards a normal operating state. And so that's a lot of detail, and it's somewhat of it's newer learning for myself. But as I started looking at my own recovery journey, and one of the things we do in CR, in Celebrate Recovery, as our recovery journey, is we practice a gratitude list. And one of the things in step studies is you make a gratitude list. And you go through all these categories, family and your church and the friends around you. And there's so many areas that you write a gratitude list out. And I have found that whenever you do that, whenever I've done that, it's changed the way I thought about my current situation and circumstances. So it really does open the door to, I'm going to call it a emotionally healthy view of the world. Changes your perspective. What are you thinking? You're looking at me like you're in deep thought. So that's why
the first thing that I'm thinking of is I took the same course, and I didn't get that far into it. Just shows your intellect, which is really keen and wonderful. But I get it, because I did the same. The freeze mode, the sympathetic, parasympathetic kind of exercises, and I think I have not yet categorized this 2015 event in my life completely yet, but I know I was in the freeze mode for a while in that ICU and processing the information that I had a 5% chance to live, and the pain and the exhaustion, the despair, the abandonment, I thought, of God and all that. I was in a freeze mode, and I could see how that would be my body's way of saying, hey, let's take a big time break here and be silent, build some resilience, because I didn't want visitors. I didn't want to process anything. So I get that. I understand that.
One thing I want to, just before we go too far, is what I'm not saying, and I think the things that I'm being taught, freeze mode by itself is not bad. The body does need time to restore. So if you're in a freeze mode, and because you've gone through trauma, this doesn't mean you're doing something wrong or that you're bad. The problem happens is that so many of us get stuck in freeze mode. And so what we don't want to see happen, or at least what's being taught, and I think I agree with this, is that if you get stuck into a freeze mode, then what can happen is that it's like a downward spiral. It's when you feel lethargic and you just have no ability to move forward in life. And your body actually needs to get up and needs to start moving. And if you stay in freeze mode, you'll do things that are harmful to your body and to yourself.
And I think that's consistent with our podcast about the grief cycle too. If you get stuck, like in depression, one of those items, it's kind of like that same thing. Getting stuck.
Yes. And you need to experience.
Yes.
This.
It's part of the natural flow of going through trauma and experience, like getting a cancer diagnosis, having a major surgery, starting treatment. It's normal to go through that process. And of course, this podcast is about finding inner peace. And I know in the hospital, when I was in that parasympathetic state, I'll say, but when I intentionally did a gratitude list, that I did experience joy, deep joy.
Yeah.
My situation was the same. My diagnosis didn't change, but I experienced the emotion of joy that, wow, even though I am in a desperate place, I see where God showed up in all these special areas of my life to bring me joy. And I'm like, wow, my higher power is not here to destroy me. He's here to give me prosperity in this situation, in the sense of bringing me joy, even in a dark hospital room where I'm recovering and I'm hooked up to life support stuff.
Isn't it interesting? Joy and gratitude are so close to each other in what they feel and look like. And I think that's something that you're describing. You felt joy, and I think you're really saying also felt gratitude in that moment. And one of the things I think we're trying to describe here, and I think this might be important for people to understand, it's recognizing when you're getting stuck in freeze mode. It's the ability to do that, because one of the things that's really important for you to do is we talked about grief a while back, and allowing those cycles to be fully gone through, that the feelings to be fully felt is important. And so I'm not, and I don't think you are here encouraging people to try to use gratitude to move yourself forward too soon. It's, hey, I recognize that my body is now stuck. I'm stuck in this cycle. That's the downward spiral. And this is where like a gratitude journal becomes a tool. And so what you can do is begin this gratitude journal. But I found it really powerful to think about this time when you last felt gratitude or joy, and then bring yourself to that moment and allow yourself to experience that feeling. Because that's a really powerful tool. Is once you recognize that you can go to that time in history and allow yourself to experience that feeling of joy and gratitude in that moment, you're literally moving your nervous system from freeze to the parasympathetic state.
Yeah, when I was in that course and I did the exercise, I went back to my granddaughter too, because right after she was born, I went to the hospital, held her and all that. And so it was like, what did joy feel like? You know, the person who was guiding me through this said, what did it feel like? And it's like, wow, I've never really described what it feels like. So I allowed myself to go back to that place. And I'm like, wow, it feels warm. Core warmth.
Yes.
It feels peaceful.
Yeah.
Tranquil.
And where do you feel it at? Those were good questions.
Yeah, like where in my body sensations do I feel it? But it was I'm like, wow, so I isolated as to what joy feels like. And, I don't think I've ever done that before.
Yeah, and I think the reason why this is a good conversation point isn't, it would be easy to say, go be grateful, and you're going to get better. It's going to be more helpful. But I think the reason why I wanted to just describe that at the level of detail we just is because if you understand that there's actually, maybe scientific healing that's bodily taking place with your nervous system and how your body works, then maybe it won't seem like so much, hey, I'm just kind of putting a smiley face on a bad situation.
Right.
You're literally helping your body find a way to process, heal, and recover from trauma, because cancer and the things that are happening to your body are trauma. Chemotherapy is trauma.
Right.
I can remember my mom and many others that have gone through a heavy chemo. It just wipes you out. And you're going to feel tired from the trauma of this drug attacking your body and your system. And you're describing it from your surgeries, the trauma that's happened to your body and how it really wiped your body out. Well, your body needs to be able to heal from these traumas. And so what we're really talking about is helping it with your emotional and spiritual state, helping your body heal too. And so it's not just a whimsical tool, hey, be grateful. It's, no, actually take time to think about what it really felt like. Take time to put down the real things that are the blessings that are happening in life. And then as that happens, it's going to help your nervous system recognize what, the whole picture, because we tend to, I know for me personally, I can't be in two places at one time. I can't be ungrateful and angry while at the same time joyful and grateful. I can't be those two things. I can only be one.
Right.
And so if you stay focused in one, you'll never experience the other.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the point you made earlier is critical. I had to go through the tough emotions of fear, anger, and sadness and ungratefulness and all that. That was part of the process of working into the place of then getting to gratitude. You know, it's interesting too. I was thinking about being in the hospital and being at the point where I could do a gratitude list, and then beginning to feel joy and tranquility and peace from doing that gratitude list. And I remember thinking to myself, Peter, you have a 95% chance to pass right now. And my faith tells me that, and my experience within my soul and my spirit tells me that I have an afterlife coming. And it's going to be an incredible afterlife with my higher power, Jesus Christ. And so it was like, wow, I had gratitude that I had that future coming. And I remember saying, okay, Peter, let's do this recovery. Let's right now make a decision. For whatever time you have left, we're going to do a quality of life time. We're going to speak into our kids' lives, my kids' lives, about going through a tough situation. And we're going to do this with my personal relationship with my higher power. You know what I mean? Energized.
Yeah, you're energizing into my mind is this idea of even in the worst diagnosis, you're still given a gift, which is slightly different than what we would normally think about, but you've been given the gift of an opportunity to go say all the things that, it's not as if you were just taken out by a car. You never get a chance to share these things. You've been given an opportunity to go out now and to give those messages that you gave to your kids.
Right.
You're given the opportunity to restore relationships.
Right.
You've been given a gift of some notice that time may be short, but there's still an opportunity that's bringing. You can be grateful for the opportunity and the life that you have even now in this moment, because that's all any one of us have is the very next moment.
Right.
And there's so many places to be grateful that it feels like you might be ungrateful, but what I see that God's done in your life through your cancer journey is he's given you an opportunity to embrace all the gifts that are on the backside of that. And they aren't the gifts that you would normally think of. The pain's not a gift, right? But the gifts of the relationship with your children, the gifts of sharing the journey with others, and so many of the pain and all the transformation that's been taking in your life along that. Those are massive gifts.
I mean, I've said in my book and that I'm not grateful for cancer and for the cancer, but I'm grateful in how my higher power partnered with me and really transformed my life through this journey. I wouldn't know my higher power in the same way that I know him now if I hadn't been through this journey, and I'm thankful for that.
That's always been the bizarre. When you said to me, I wouldn't have it any other way. Oh man, that's a big statement. I mean, I know that you're not grateful for cancer.
Right.
None of us are. But
well, let me put it this way. In 2005, when I had my first surgery at Memorial Sloan, I was down there 3 weeks, whatever, and I remember, 43 years of age, busy attorney, 6 kids. I remember getting up and looking at myself in the mirror with, I was gaunt. I had lost 30 pounds, had my gown on. And I remember saying, there is no other place I would rather be than right here, right now. Because God's presence was so thick in that place and on my life. And I thought, I've never felt this before. And I was like, wow, I'm not grateful for the cancer, for what's going on, but boy, am I grateful for this deep revelation, for this deeper time with the Lord.
You're describing the greatest gift we can get right now with God is intimacy with Him, and when you were brought into that, no matter what the tool was, you can now look past that tool, that circumstance, the disease, and look at, but there's intimacy with God. And that's really what I think a gratitude list does. Is it starts focusing on what's important. what's really important. And when you start doing that, I think there's a healing aspect to that. And I'm not saying that it heals your cancer. That's not my point. But it's a emotional and spiritual healing that's taking place. And that moves you towards peace, because once you're able to focus on what's really important, I think there's peace in the backside of that. Because that's what I heard you just talking about. Is
Yes.
you started
Peace.
looking at, hey, my future is solid, it's stable, and by going through this, I can experience intimacy, which all of us, when we're truly honest, want deep intimacy in our life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what the scripture is intended to do, because it's not natural to give thanks in all circumstances, but God knows. That's when you'll experience peace.
Yeah, that nuance of what you said, because giving thanks for cancer as a disease seems off.
Right. Yeah.
But you just described, no, but what I see is that cancer was an invitation into something greater. And I think that's what we're talking about here. So we're not asking people, and nor would we want to promote pain and suffering as the gratefulness, but it's recognizing that we're always being called into something greater. And that's the journey of peace that we're talking about. That's what this podcast is really all about is, yes, something really traumatic, something awful is happening in the world, in your life, and in the lives around us, but it's a call to something greater.
I love that.
And so, and the gratitude list is a tool to help discover that.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Sean. This is a great topic.
I enjoy
it's such
talking
a
about,
great tool.
Yes, and we've been using it in recovery. This isn't just for cancer patients.
Yeah.
This is for life.
Mm-hmm.
And I see when somebody that I'm working with talks to me and comes to me and said, "Hey, yeah," it's like, "Hey, have you thought about gratitude list?"
You mean like me?
Actually, I wasn't even thinking about you, but
It actually happened. Peter, have you thought about the antidote?
we had a conversation.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
It's such a real tool. It is a tool, and it's a great tool, but it leads you to a place. It's not just a tool. It leads me. It's led me personally to a place of a greater reality than the one I think I'm experiencing. So I think this is a wrap. This is a good place to stop. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you want to get more resources or check out more of Peter's podcasts and his book, go to cancerandpeace.com. There's a whole bunch of resources out there that we'd love to share with you. And we'll look forward to discussing more topics in future episodes. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Sean.